So Robert, thank you so much for joining AeroTime here today. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and I know that you're one of those chief executives of an airport who, you're not just here to run the airport, you're here because you have a genuine passion for aviation. So tell us your story. Did aviation find you, or did you find aviation?
So I think I found aviation, and it started very young. So I was a little boy, I wanted to be a pilot, I wanted to learn to fly. I started flying age 16, I think it was, went solo after 6 hours, a little Piper Tomahawk, and I just clearly had a passion. Wanted to go into the Air Force. Sadly, eyesight wasn't quite on spec, so I had to think about some other alternatives for a career. Chose law, accounting, finance, and actually from a business perspective, those core disciplines actually worked well, wrapping that up into sort of aviation to ultimately get me into an airport.
So you started your career in the law, as you said, but aviation's always been there in the background. So when you got the opportunity to move into aviation, especially at Bristol Airport as the chief executive, I guess you jumped at the chance.
Well, actually it was before that. So I was in New Zealand, having lived in various places over the world, so Hong Kong, Australia, London, New York, could see what aviation would actually provide for people, connectivity, making the world a smaller place. But you're absolutely right, aviation never leaves you, and an opportunity came up to be the CFO of Auckland Airport, which is New Zealand's major gateway airport. It's a hub airport, major inbound tourist asset for the country, and it just married up those core skills of business, of law, of accounting, with my passion for aviation. So it's a brilliant opportunity. Spent 4 years there. Absolutely loved it. I could see that this was going to be my career for the rest of my working days. But actually, New Zealand, despite what people think, it's a beautiful country. It is an absolutely beautiful country, but it's very small, and it's very much at the bottom end of the world. Aviation clearly incredibly important to a country like New Zealand, connecting it to the world. But we felt it was a great opportunity for us with a young family to go overseas. The role at Bristol came up, very different airport, low cost, EasyJet, Ryanair, some of the charter operators, some full service carriers, operating in the southwest, which is a very dynamic and different market clearly. So there was sort of a wonderful 9 years was spent there doing all sorts of things, developments and terminal extensions and car parks and hotels and planning issues and working with airlines and concessionaires and so forth, and absolutely loved it. And then following that, the opportunity here at London City came up. Again, marvellous opportunity, capital city airport, right in the centre of what I would consider to be the best city in the world, with some real challenges that we had to deal with.
And I think it's fair to say that your tenure at Bristol and indeed your tenure here at London City, very successful. We've seen passenger numbers grow significantly. Do you think that your passion for the industry actually helps you to be so successful in those roles when you actually come into the aviation world?
I think it does, actually. I think actually having a sort of an appreciation and affinity for all elements of aviation. So not just the technical, not just the planning or the regulatory or the financial or the HR, but actually also the operations and the commercial element, and actually what the airlines do as well. And that's certainly key to what we do, particularly at some of those airports like Bristol, like London City. We work just so incredibly hard with our airline partners. We take a very collaborative, cooperative approach to grow our respective businesses, and that's something which I think makes a great deal of sense to me, and something which we have focused a lot here and also at Bristol as well.
Now, 2 years into your time here at London City, the world turned upside down for all of us with the COVID pandemic. Tell us a little bit about how you approached that. How did you navigate through that incredibly challenging time for aviation?
It was a challenging time, and actually London City was at the epicentre of the first wave in the UK, particularly here in East London. So we had to make some decisions very, very quickly about what we did, how we responded, how we dealt with our staff in particular, and our business partners and our passengers. We made the decision very much taking into consideration our values as a business, and also taking into consideration our very, very strongly held view that our industry would bounce back. So no matter what this crisis was, however long it would go, we felt very, very confident right from the outset that travel would come back, as we've been through many other crises before. Clearly this one was much more significant, it lasted much longer, and it was much deeper. But our industry has a real trend line that it follows, all to do with people wanting to travel and social cohesion. So we felt the right thing to do was to be guided very much by those long-term principles and to actually ensure that what actions that we took would never damage the long-term prospects of the airport. So that guided how we worked with our airlines, our business partners, our concessionaires, certainly guided how we worked with our staff. We weren't the first airport to actually progress a restructuring. In fact, we were one of the last. We actually closed the airport for 3 months, and that allowed us to furlough as many staff as possible. It allowed us to get on with some core development work, put in place some capacity, some airside infrastructure, which was very useful at the time. And then when we opened, we were in a much better position to actually handle the sort of the passenger numbers and the ins and the outs that sort of followed over the next year or two, but in a way that we'd created a long-term partnership with all of those key stakeholders at the airport. And actually, I think in the bounce back and the recovery, that's paid dividends. That's helped us a lot in terms of that strong partnership working together at the airport, which has been very beneficial.
So how would you explain the recovery? I think a lot of people thought that the recovery in aviation would take longer than it has done. I think a lot of people are quite surprised by the speed of recovery in the aviation sector. I think that's a huge sort of testament to the resilience that our sector shows time after time. But how's the recovery going here at London City Airport?
So I think your point about resilience is a really good one. And that was another feature of the philosophy that we took through the crisis, is to actually be very calm, very resilient, and very, I guess, thoughtful and mindful of the approach to everything that we did through that period. The recovery we knew was going to happen. We felt very strongly. We didn't know when, but we certainly knew that it would. And that actually informed some of the decisions that we took towards the latter end of the recovery, just to ensure that London City actually had the resourcing in place to handle that bounce back when it happened. And thankfully we did do that, and we were well resourced for summer last year when we saw that bounce back following the lifting of travel restrictions, and that passenger numbers really increased very, very significantly and very, very quickly. And London City, I believe, did a fantastic team here, did a brilliant job actually operating very, very seamlessly during that summer. Our core DNA, our USP at London City is speed and convenience, and also customer service as well. And we were really pleased to be able to deliver that in the context of a market that was bouncing back quite strongly at the time. And we've certainly seen the bounce back being led by leisure, particularly outbound leisure. Strangely, London City, there's a reputation for business travel. Business travel is very, very important to us. It's a substantial amount of our passenger base, but we also do a lot of leisure travel here as well. So certainly in the course of last summer, we saw a strong leisure profile and leisure passenger bounce back. But as we went into the autumn, we saw business passengers starting to return to the airport, and that was really comforting. Once again, we knew that would happen. We knew that business people would want to get back to travelling, want to get back to meetings in person and conferences and all those sorts of things. During the course of the pandemic, there were plenty of naysayers that were saying business travel has changed forever, and we're going to be working on Teams forever. Sadly, they've been proven wrong relatively quickly, I'm pleased to say.
Absolutely. And you talk about speed, you talk about customer experience. I can tell you I'm a regular traveller through your airport, and I certainly appreciate the speed. I appreciate the customer experience here. And I also know that one of the things that I always think about for City Airport is innovation. And I've seen many innovations over the years being implemented here. The one I particularly like at the moment is around security. coming through here a few months ago and not having to remove anything from my bag was just an absolute delight. And that speed that your airport is already known for was even quicker. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with security and why the investment in security is so important to you and how that's going to revolutionize the customer experience here.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Speed and convenience is absolutely in our DNA. It's, as I say, it's our USP at London City. It doesn't happen by accident. We have an incredibly detailed, methodical approach to measuring everything we do at this airport to ensure that we deliver that proposition every day, all the time. And it means so much to our customers because they can rely on it. They know they're going to get that service. And speed and convenience is critical, but you know, we absolutely believe that we can go to the next level of customer service and focus on other elements of what we do well and what our customers value, which includes look and feel, which includes sensors, how they feel going through security, the customer service interaction which they have with our customer service agents and our security agents and security officers. It makes such a difference. Those sorts of things are also incredibly important to people. And I think when we operate as we do in the London aviation system, which is the most competitive market in the world, and we have some bigger airports that are investing a lot of money in ensuring they also provide good customer service, we need to be even better. We need to provide a service which is outstanding and people can rely on that, and they know with absolute certainty they can leave the office with an hour to go, they can arrive here with 40 minutes, 30 minutes before their departure, they'll have absolutely no issues, and it will be an incredibly stress-free experience. That's really important, and actually that's something that we are really focused on, continuing to provide that relaxing, stress-free experience, speed and convenience, but also short walking distance, exceptional on-time performance, working really closely with our airlines so those turnaround times are as fast as possible and people can do what's most important to them, which is spend time doing something else as opposed to in the travel element of the role.
The thing I usually spend my time on when I get here is remembering to buy all the presents for the people I'm going to go and visit, which I forgot to buy before I got here. And actually, when I was coming through here during those COVID times, there wasn't much going on for obvious reasons. But actually, every time I come here now, a new outlet appears to be opening. So on that side of things appear to be going well and growing as well.
Correct. So we are actually not sitting back in terms of the investment of the airport. We're continuing to innovate. Of course, one of which is, if going back to security, deploying the new CT scanners and going back to that philosophy about wanting to be market leading and provide exceptional customer service. We made a decision to actually be the first major airport in the UK to provide all CT at security. So we're in the process of doing that now. All lanes will be CT compliant before Easter in the next few weeks, which is really exciting for us. Customers absolutely love it. They can leave their presents or their liquids or their laptops in their bags and go through without having to decant all of those sorts of things, get them out of their pockets or in plastic bags. So that's going to make a huge difference. And it goes back to that philosophy of actually wanting to be the best in the London market and actually provide that exceptional customer service. But we're also actually looking at a further enhancement and a refresh of our departure lounge as well. So yes, you're right, more stores, more choice, different outlets, but also more space as well. We're not blessed with a huge terminal at London City. We think we operate incredibly efficiently for what we do. But again, we want to make that whole experience much more efficient, much slicker, much faster, and also much pleasant in terms of the options that people have, our customers have for shopping or for food and beverage whilst they're here.
Which I and many other people very much appreciate. Just staying on the theme of innovation for a second, as I said, there's many things that have been happening here. The remote tower is another one that I can think of. Tell us about the remote tower, but also tell us what's your vision for other innovations in the future that can build on everything you've just been explaining?
So the remote tower, absolutely. That's another world first, actually. The first airport in the world of our size to have a remote digital air traffic control tower. And it's an amazing piece of equipment. So we don't have any air traffic controllers on site. Some people find that a bit strange, perhaps a bit concerning. They're based down in Swanwick at the NATS Centre down there in a virtual control room where they can literally see 360 degrees on 270 degrees of screens in front of them. But it actually uses digital overlays in terms of the actual information that the controllers can actually see on those screens that they wouldn't be able to see if they were just looking out the window. So it's call signs, it's speeds, it's altitudes, all that sorts of information. And actually the ability for them to track things which are going on in the airspace as well, things like drones and so forth, because of the precision of the way the cameras works, is a great enhancement. So it's got an efficiency enhancement, it's got an optics enhancement, the way the controllers work is very, very good, and it's also got a safety enhancement as well.
So looking to the future, if there was one more big thing that you wanted to bring to London City Airport, or even to your career maybe, what would that big thing be?
Well, it's certainly sustainable flight. Certainly with the way we're going at London City is not only progressing this airport to be more of a mainstream airport, which is serving a bigger catchment area and a more balanced mix of business and leisure passengers, people visiting friends and relatives, but we also want to do that in a way that is as sustainable as possible. We're doing an enormous amount actually on the ground in terms of the airport infrastructure, in terms of call it the Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, everything that we're doing on the ground, public transport to the airport, our own electricity emissions, etc. But it's really the aircraft where we believe we can make a difference. And we're starting to see the evolution and deployment of new generation aircraft to London City. So these are aircraft that have more seats on board, which is good from a passengers per emission basis. They are much quieter. Given our central London location, noise is a key issue for us. So anything that we can do to accelerate the noise environment and to make it more, a more reduced noise environment for our local community around us is a good thing, and anything that we can do to reduce emissions is excellent. We're also working very, very closely with our airlines around the next stage of sustainable flight as well. If we think about London City in the position that we have in central London, the size of our aircraft, the nature of our routes, short haul and domestic, makes us the perfect test bed for the evolution and trialling of sustainable flight. And whether that's SAFs, whether that is hydrogen, or in the fullness of time, possibly electric flight on smaller aircraft to those shorter routes, we think we're ideally placed to be a leader in innovation and sustainability as well.
And what comes next for Robert Sinclair?
Well, I'm absolutely thoroughly enjoying the challenge that is London City at the moment. I think we've still got a long way to go in terms of what we can provide for London. We are, we believe, London's favourite airport, the airport that everybody loves. But we want to make that better. We want to make the experience here faster, quicker, obviously, better in terms of customer service, more efficient, and also we want to transition and transform London City, particularly in terms of that sustainability challenge, to actually make London City the airport that people choose, not just because of speed and convenience, but the airport that people choose for our sustainability credentials. They know deep down that this is actually the best way that they can travel, mitigating the impact on the environment.
And thinking about the future, thinking about we've seen some resource shortages in aviation, especially in the post-pandemic world. At AeroTime, we like to do everything we can to encourage the next generation. It's not just the next generation of flight crew and cabin crew, it's the next generation of people who want to come into the aviation sector and enjoy an amazing career as you have. And of course, aviation requires everything, every kind of background, every kind of person, every kind of specialism, every kind of profession. And so what would your message be to that 16-year-old you going on your first flights? What would you be saying to that person now about a potential career in aviation?
So many things. So many things I'd like to say to that 16-year-old, boy or girl. For us, aviation's an amazing. It's not even an industry. It's not even a business. It's a career. It's a lifetime. It's a love. It's a passion. And I would encourage anyone who is remotely interested in aviation to really really look into all of the options. It's an incredibly diverse industry, so it appeals to all sorts of personality types and people with different interests. Of course, the most high-profile pilot roles and cabin crew roles and so forth, but also aerospace engineers and people who are accountants or in finance or in HR, commercial roles, retail roles, development roles. It's so diverse, but it is also so exciting, and it is so different, and it's so changing all of the time. As I say, I'm an aviation geek going back far enough. I still absolutely love to. I don't fly personally, but when I do fly for business, absolutely love it. But the other thing I would say, and why this industry is so amazing, is we make the world a smaller place, and we connect people. And there's something which is just fundamentally rewarding about doing that, working in a business that's actually doing good for people.
Completely agree with you, 100%. And you are clearly an amazing advocate for the aviation industry. But if there was one thing that you could change about the industry, what would you really like to see change?
It's a difficult one. I mean, I think we certainly have some challenges. We certainly have a sustainability. We touched on sustainability. I think we do have a sustainability challenge. I think we have a challenge in that regard in terms of public perceptions of the good of flying. I think for us as an industry, we do need to work incredibly hard to make sure that public perception doesn't result in aviation somehow being reduced or managed. The decline of all the vast economic but also social benefits that we haven't enjoyed over many, many decades are still there for our children and their children in the years to come.
And there's two questions I always like to finish these interviews with. Some people, it's much easier to ask these questions to, and I think you're definitely going to be one of those people, because you are clearly one of those people who has aviation through veins and through every aspect of your life. So first of all, what is your favourite aircraft?
Ooh, I have many favourite aircraft. I guess I'd probably have to say the first aircraft that I flew on. Piper Tomahawk. Not the easiest of aircraft to fly, but a good trainer. So that would be a favourite. Another one may be Cessna 172, which I've flown a lot. And then at completely the other end of the size scale, the A380 is just a marvellous, marvellous aircraft.
And you must have flown in and out of this airport 1,000 or 1,000,000 times. Of course, pilots coming into City have to have a special rating because of the sharp descent. Is it something you'd like to have a go at?
It's very challenging flying into London City. A constrained airport environment, relatively short runway, lots of obstacles around here. So absolutely, the pilots here need to be highly qualified and specifically certified to operate into and out of London City. So I think it would be fun, but I'm not so sure I necessarily want to have a go myself.
So tell me about your favourite aviation experience that you've had.
Ooh, that's a hard one. So I've had many amazing aviation experiences of all sorts. I'd probably have to say the first time when I went solo, flying an aircraft by yourself, age 16, after only 6 hours of flying, was an amazing experience. I remember it to today. I remember actually taxiing back to the clubhouse, thought that I was finished for the day. We got literally to the end of the taxiway, left turn back to the clubhouse, right turn back to the runway, and the instructor said, "Stop." So I had no idea what was going on. I stopped the aircraft. He pulled the lever to hop out of the plane, and he said, "Right, off you go, do one by yourself." Which also goes to psychology, because this instructor did this on purpose. He left me with no opportunity to consider what I was just about to do, which was, for the first time ever, fly a plane by myself. And I'm pleased it went well, and I made it back on to terra firma.
Amazing. What an amazing story. And Robert, thank you so much. I don't think there's a better way to end this interview. So we really appreciate your time today. Thank you for everything you do for aviation. Good luck in the future. And thank you for joining AeroTime.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.